African Democratic Congress (ADC) has called for an immediate investigation after the family home of one of their members, Isaiah Thomas, was attacked and partially burnt in Rivers State. The incident occurred at Umuoko, Alo, in Ikore local government area of the state, amid growing political activities following the commencement of campaigns for the presidential and National Assembly elections. According to the Daily Post, the attack happened in the early hours of Wednesday, barely 24 hours after political campaigns officially began. The party said the attackers arrived at the family compound in large numbers and were reportedly armed with guns. They allegedly set some of the buildings within the compound on fire, while household properties were also destroyed. The incident has raised concerns within the party over the safety of their members as political activities gather momentum across Rivers State. Thomas' mother, Uchechi Thomas, who spoke about the incident, alleged that the attackers appeared to be searching specifically for her son. According to her, the men stormed the family compound and began causing destruction. She reportedly told members of the ADC delegation that her son had hosted a meeting within ADC members at the family residence on Tuesday, shortly before the attack occurred. The circumstances surrounding the attackers' alleged search for Thomas have not been fully established. It is also not clear whether the attack was directly connected to the political meeting held at the residence or whether there were other reasons behind the incident. The identities of the attackers remain unknown. No individual or group has publicly claimed responsibility for the attack. Following the incident, senior members of the ADC visited the affected residents to assess the damage and meet with the family. The party described what happened as unacceptable and warned that political disagreements must not be allowed to turn into violence. Speaking during the visit, the ADC governorship candidate in Rivers State, Gabriel P. Thompson, condemned the attack and described it as contrary to the principles of democratic participation. P. Thompson called on security agencies to immediately begin a thorough and impartial investigation into the incident. He urged the authorities to identify those responsible for the attack and ensure that anyone found culpable is brought to justice. The ADC candidate also appealed to politicians and their supporters to exercise restraint as campaign activities intensify. He stressed that political differences should be handled through dialogue and lawful democratic processes rather than through violence, intimidation, or destruction of property. P. Thompson further appealed for calm among ADC supporters and residents of the area. He said political competition should not become an excuse for actions capable of endangering lives or destroying property. The ADC state chairman, Chukwudi Dimkpa, also expressed concern over the incident. Dimkpa specifically appealed to the Rivers State Commissioner of Police to ensure that the attack is fully investigated. He urged the police to establish what happened, determine the motive behind the attack, and identify those responsible. The party leadership said they expected the security agencies to provide adequate protection for political actors and ordinary citizens as election activities continue. The incident comes at a sensitive time for Rivers State, where political competition has historically attracted significant attention. With campaign activities now underway, political parties are expected to intensify meetings, rallies, consultations, and mobilization across different local government areas. The ADC's leadership is concerned that incidents such as attack on Thompson's family home could create fear among party members and discourage people from participating freely in political activities. A political campaign is expected to provide citizens with an opportunity to hear competing ideas, examine candidates, and make informed choices at the ballot box. The ADC argues that such democratic participation can only take place effectively when political actors feel safe. The party therefore wants security agencies to treat the attack seriously and ensure that political affiliation does not become a reason for anyone to be targeted. The destruction of the family property has now raised questions about the safety of private residences used for political meetings. Political parties frequently hold consultations and strategic meetings in private homes, particularly at the grassroots level. If individuals believe that hosting such meetings could expose their families to attacks, it could affect political participation and grassroots mobilization. For the ADC, the immediate priority is to establish the facts surrounding the incident. The party has not publicly identified anyone as responsible for the attack and has instead called for an impartial investigation. This distinction is important because the motive behind the incident remains unclear. While the timing of the attack has raised concerns because it happened shortly after the beginning of campaign activities, investigators will need to establish whether the incident was politically motivated. They will also need to determine whether the attacker specifically targeted Thomas because of his political activities or whether other factors were involved. The police investigation could potentially involve questioning witnesses, examining the damaged buildings, and determining how the attackers entered and left the area. The authorities may also need to establish whether any weapons were used during the attack and whether they were previous threats against Thomas or members of his family. For the family, the incident has already created fear and uncertainty. The reported destruction of property and burning of buildings has left the affected residents seeking answers and protection. The ADC leadership has called on its supporters not to retaliate and instead allow security agencies to investigate the matter. The party said peaceful political participation remains their position and urged their members to remain calm. P. Thompson also appealed to other political parties and their supporters to conduct themselves responsibly during the campaign period. He stressed that political differences should not become personal conflicts or lead to attacks on families. The ADC further reaffirms their commitment to democratic values, peaceful political participation, and the rule of law. The party called on political stakeholders across Rivers State to work together to maintain peace and security throughout the election period. As the campaign season progresses, attention will now be focused on whether security agencies can identify the perpetrators of the attack and establish the motive behind it. The incident has provided another reminder of the importance of security during election periods, particularly in politically competitive states. The ADC is demanding justice and a comprehensive investigation. The party wants those responsible to be identified and prosecuted if they are found to have committed the attack. It is also urging residents and political supporters to reject violence and allow political disagreements to be resolved through lawful means. The bigger concern is that an attack on a political member's family home could have consequences beyond the immediate damage. If such incidents continue, they could deepen political tension, discourage grassroots participation, and create an atmosphere of fear among voters and candidates. The ADC is therefore calling for calm, accountability, and stronger security measures as political activities continue in Rivers State. Until the investigation is completed, the identities and motives of the attackers remain unknown. What happened at Umogo, Alo, has nevertheless become a major concern for the ADC, which is insisting that political participation must never come at the cost of people's safety, homes, and families. For more updates, stay with us on News Express. I am Cassie Tony.